Hey y'all, and welcome back to another Confederate Shop YouTube video. So this morning I have a brand new book that I am super excited to talk about. But before I talk about it, I want to discuss a subject which pertains to this book, and that is Washington and Lee University. Now, if you don't know what Washington and Lee University is, this university is in Lexington, Virginia. Lexington is in the southern part of the Shenandoah Valley. Lexington is also the place where Robert E. Lee is buried, where Stonewall Jackson is buried, where the Virginia Military Institute exists. And Washington and Lee has really been around for quite a long time. It was actually one of the first educational academic places in America. It started in 1749. It was at one time known as Washington College. It was known as Washington College up until they renamed it after Robert E. Lee's death. But the institution has existed for quite some time. Now, after the surrender at Appomattox, Washington College was in dire straits. They had about 40 members of the institution, and they needed help. So just a few months after Lee's surrender, they extended an offer to General Robert E. Lee to become superintendent of the college. And unbeknownst to many, actually, Lee had many offers from various people. Many northern businesses, too, offered him very high pay to come sponsor their business. And Lee turned down many offers that could have helped him greatly or financially in the long run at the later part of his life. But he denied all of those and took the position as superintendent of Washington College. And like I said, this college was in dire straits. They didn't have very many students at the time of surrender and right after the war. But as soon as Lee took command of that college and became superintendent, through his leadership, they had droves and droves of students that had signed up and wanted to attend the college. Lee dedicated the last part of his life, the last 5 years of his life, were dedicated to raising Southern men, in educating them, in teaching them how to be gentlemen, in helping the devastated South recover and recuperate and come back together as a nation. Lee was responsible for that. He was responsible for saving that college. Now, I say all that to kind of lay a groundwork for the book I want to talk about today. This is the book I'm featuring this week. It is Uncancel Robert E. Lee by Gibb Kerr. And I'll tell you, I am almost done with this book, and it's phenomenal. Gibb is a great writer, and if I could sum up the book, it is probably one of the best broad overview defenses of General Robert E. Lee. But it's not just that. It gives the history of Washington and Lee University. It also tells about how this cultural Marxist jihad, which is attacking all of our historic monuments. As you remember in 2020, this cultural jihad, which sought to destroy our history, went after the Confederate monuments. The Confederate monuments were just one thing in a wide array of different cultural icons which this movement was after. One of these things that the cultural Marxists were after was the name of Lee on Washington and Lee University. And it was then when the university began taking down anything related to Robert E. Lee. There were portraits of Lee in various buildings. There was his name on various things. Those were taken down. Documents which had his portrait on them were taken off. The chapel, Lee Chapel, was renamed. They even put a wall up inside of the chapel where the recumbent of Lee is, right? There is a beautiful statue in that chapel of Lee, laying down, almost like a death mask, but it's the recumbent of Lee is what it's known as. And below the chapel is where his crypt is. So the university began taking down all of these things. And many of the alumni were furious. One of these alumni was Gibb Kerr, and he was one of the people who fought against this woke agenda at Washington and Lee University. Now, this book, I want to say, is phenomenal, and Gibb does a great job at giving really a good overview of Lee's life, but defending all of the aspects of Robert E. Lee, all of the criticisms that you have heard about Robert E. Lee, he debunks in this book. He just gives a good apologetic case in defending Lee and supporting the good name of Robert E. Lee. And I'll tell you, it's been a page turner for me. I'm almost done with it. I'll probably finish it today. But you need to get yourself a copy of this book. Plus, it supports Gibb's work. Gibb is a part of an organization also called the Generals Redoubt. Now, the Generals Redoubt is how should I say it, is the alumni organization which is defending the name of Robert E. Lee at Washington and Lee University. The university will eventually come after Washington's name too, George Washington, right? So they will defend that when that time comes, but they are doing everything they can to prevent the university from removing the name of Lee from Washington and Lee University. And remember, that university would not exist today if it wasn't for Robert E. Lee. Now, maybe you're a critic of Robert E. Lee. Maybe you think that Lee wasn't such a good guy. Maybe you think that he was a traitor to the United States. You need to get a copy of this book and read it, because you might see things in a different perspective and in a different light. So I can't talk about this enough. You need to get a copy of this book. You need to support Gibb Kerr here and his work that he's doing with the Generals Redoubt. And if you want a good organization to support, if you want to put a few dollars towards a movement in fighting for a good cause, the Generals Redoubt is a great organization to give to. I know these people. I know Gibb Kerr. I have corresponded with him quite a bit, and you need to support their organization. You can support it by buying this book. You can support it by donating to the Generals Redoubt. I will have a link in this video down below where you can give and read more about the organization too, or ways that you can support the organization. You can find those there. But this is our book we are featuring this week, so please get yourself a copy and defend the good name of General Robert E. Lee at Washington and Lee University. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.